called the B&B Corps. They're a squad of enhanced female soldiers. Each one of them's been traumatized by war, and they've been convinced that by killing Snake, their minds will be cleansed.
The moment the system stopped,
Activated.
all the sensations that had been suppressed were unleashed within their hearts.
Brother! We're not copies of our father, after all.
These Patriots, are they human? Not anymore, they ain't. An AI.
The reason you're aging so rapidly isn't because of disease, it's your natural lifespan. The receptors on the fox dye inside your body are breaking down. The virus is becoming indiscriminate about what type of target it kills. You're becoming a doomsday device yourself. 3 months from now, you'll be a walking biological weapon.
Chapter 2-5, The Hysterical Octopus. Suddenly, we're ambushed by Liquid's PMC with a flash grenade. Naomi quickly takes a flash drive out before she's grabbed by the soldiers and escorted out, willingly. So she's not being held captive? Anyways, as Snake chases them down, the group of PMC is replaced by a group of frogs, along with the beast herself, Laughing Octopus, who just keeps on laughing. Laughing Octopus disperses a cloud of black smoke and disappears with it. Snake must then fight against a wave of frogs soldiers before Laughing Octopus shows up again. She begins to laugh about people suffering and pain and death, almost sarcastically.
It's all so fucking hysterical!
Then the fight begins. This is a pretty interesting fight. She keeps on changing the way she looks to blend in with the environment, and Snake must find her and shoot her before she finds him first and shoots him. She even attempts to disguise herself as a big version of the Mark II at one point, tricking Snake into following it and luring him into some bombs.
Snake, come here. This way, Snake. Oh, you should have been more careful.
She disguises herself as a dead frog soldier, which is actually believable since you did fight a bunch of frogs before this, but they look different when they're dead. And finally, after being hit enough, her mask falls off and she reveals herself to be Naomi, seemingly trapped in the suit as she asks him to help. Oh, just kidding, it was another disguise. Finally, Snake delivers the last hit and she is defeated. Her mask falls off and we get to see her face. They definitely earned the title Beauty and Beast. Her tentacles fall off as well before she picks up a bunch of ink. She slowly walks through her Snake and admits that she's not laughing and never was. She knows she shouldn't be laughing, and in fact she's scared. And she starts to apologize for laughing. It's clear at this point that she's talking at Snake, but not to Snake. She says she won't laugh anymore because she doesn't want to, but she says this while laughing.
I won't laugh anymore. I can't. I don't want to.
Like Drebin said, their minds have been broken by their PTSD. Snake manages to defeat her in her true form, and she has the most graceful death ever. Well, sorta. Snake retrieves her face camo, so he is now able to fully disguise himself in the battlefield with Octocamo. Drebin calls in and tells him about the face mask, and Snake asks him why he mixed the virus with the nanomachines he injected him with. Drebin, however, has no idea what he's talking about, so who do we trust? Drebin or Naomi? He does make a good point by saying that he benefits more for keeping Snake alive and buying him weapons. Drebin goes on to explain Laughing Octopus's past, because as we know, every Metal Gear Solid game must give a villain's past. Laughing Octopus was from a village in Scandinavia, which is popular for octopus, as it was one of the few places in Europe that known for eating octopus customarily. The locals referred to the village as the Devil's Village for some reason. One night, when she was just a teenager, a cult of psychos who hated the village get their hands on some weapons and attack them. By the end of the night, they had rounded up all the villagers and executed them one by one. However, when they got to her, they got a little creative. While calling her the Devil's Child, they forced her to torture her family and friends before killing them. The whole time she did this, they forced her to laugh as if she was enjoying it. Otherwise, they would kill her too. She let fear take over and did as they commanded. This is the only reason she was left alive. Apparently, all the blood that started pulling up went from deep red to jet black, which reminded her of the ink of an octopus. This experience scarred her to the point where she hasn't stopped laughing since. Considering this has been her whole life since, Drebin considers fighting her and killing her as setting her free. Chapter 2-6, Escaping South America. Snake heads out of the lab to search for Naomi. Using clues like bent grass, footprints, and some useless advice from Raiden, he manages to track her down to a helipad, accompanied by Vamp. Snake takes his M4 and takes his time to carefully aim for Vamp's head. After steadying himself, he takes a shot and hits him right in the head, almost exactly on top of the scar Raiden left when he shot him in Metal Gear Solid 2. But even though the shot definitely affected him, he has enough time to gracefully catch himself before falling, tell someone on the phone to begin the second test, and tell the soldiers in the chopper to take their shots, before actually falling dead. Or as he calls it, taking a nap. All in the meantime, Snake is being attacked by soldiers. Then, we hear geckos at a distance, and just like before, all the soldiers start going berserk. Snake starts seizing up as well, and Naomi reminds him from the helicopter to take the syringe she gave him. So, she is on our side. After a few seconds, Snake is able to recompose himself and Drebin shows up on his vehicle. Naomi, at the command of the monkey, jumps on the vehicle and Drebin drives over to Snake to rescue him. Snake jumps in and Drebin drives away. After they drive away, we see the soldiers slowly get up. For some reason, the second test, while it didn't work, seemed to have left them in a zombie-like state where they move slowly and have no regards for their well-being, but feel no pain. While driving away, Snake must get on the turret that's on Drebin's vehicle and fight off any soldiers that hop on top, destroy gates in the way, fight back the other armored vehicles, and destroy geckos hunting them down. Finally, they make it back to a marketplace close to where Otacon landed the chopper, but Drebin loses control of the vehicle and it falls over. In the marketplace, the gecko are still around, swarming the area looking for them, but Snake spots Raiden on a roof looking down at the gecko. He's now sporting a high-frequency blade and a full cyborg ninja suit. Yep, Raiden fills the mandatory cyborg ninja role of this game. Raiden, with much grace and style, takes on every single gecko and manages to fight them all off easily. Meanwhile, Drebin returns to his vehicle, which is undetected by the gecko due to its octo camo feature. Snake makes it past all the gecko in the area and makes it to the chopper with Naomi. While they take off on the chopper, Raiden is left in the marketplace fighting the gecko. When we see him again, he's not doing too hot. He's tied up by a bunch of gecko and Vamp flamboyantly spins towards them. After stabbing him, licking up his artificial blood for some reason, and seeing no reaction from Raiden, he asks him if, like him, he is immortal. But Raiden responds with his famous line.
Colonel, we've managed to avoid drowning.
Okay, not that line.
No. I just don't fear death.
Snake manages to shoot one of the cords restraining Raiden, which is enough to get him back in action. He grabs his blade, attacks, but misses Vamp. Then he cuts off his restraints, at which point Vamp and Raiden both engage in a battle that is a cross between a fight between two ninjas and a dance-off. They're both equally matched, but Raiden ends the fight when Vamp grabs him from behind and he stabs himself with his sword so far that it reaches Vamp and stabs him too. They both give each other one final stab before Vamp falls over, hopeful that he's found the one to finally finish him. And Raiden stands victorious. Injured, but victorious. When more Gecko appears, Raiden jumps over to the helicopter that's hovering above him. Raiden starts to seize up and cough up blood, barely able to finish the sentence. Something about seeing Raiden seems to affect Naomi. Probably the fact that he looks like he was experimented with exactly like her brother was. We see Vamp get back up from his injuries, as always, and call Liquid. He tells him that Naomi got away with Snake, but apparently it's all part of the plan? Liquid says that the test was a failure even with his code, meaning Snake's genetic code. Apparently he wasn't pure enough. We'll understand all of this later. While Vamp is having his conversation, we can also see in the background that the flying beast, Raging Raven, is on the chopper's trail. Back in the chopper, Raiden is still seizing up and Naomi explains that Vamp isn't immortal. He's a product of her nanomachine research. The nanomachines in his body cause him to have accelerated healing abilities. This is why people make jokes saying that Metal Gear Solid 4's story can be summed up with just nanomachines. She also says that Raiden needs a blood infusion of artificial blood. Before passing out, Raiden tells Snake to go to Europe and meet Big Mama, the woman with Big Boss's body. Chapter 2-7, The Meeting of the Minds. Back at the Nomad, we see Sunny cooking eggs and Naomi helping her. Sunny seems reluctant to talk to her or even look at her, being shy, but Naomi continues to appeal to her interest to gain her trust. She teaches her to cook eggs better and asks her about her mother Olga, who she sees a picture of on the wall. After saying that her mother is beautiful, she finally wins her trust over when she starts talking about the song that we hear Sunny singing earlier in the scene.
Argon, boron, silicon, and neon, yttrium.
She tries to impress her by naming them, but she stumbles on one, and Sunny tells her which one it is.
Americium.
Curium.
Scientists beat by a 7-year-old. Anyways, after bonding with Sunny a little more, we cut to Naomi and Otacon talking in the downstairs area later on in the day. She tells him that Liquid is somewhere in Eastern Europe and is after Big Boss's corpse. I guess Liquid knows about Big Mama. Apparently, the keys to the Patriots AI systems are Big Boss's genetic code and biometric data. The way he's been able to perform the last 2 tests have been with Liquid's DNA back in the Middle East, and the second was from Snake's DNA, which she obtained in the blood Naomi drew from Snake. Guess nobody is going to question her loyalty from this. Anyways, the reason the tests have not worked completely is because of the IDS of the system, which is set up so that the instructions of the users only execute properly if the key they use matches perfectly. The keys are based on genetic codes, and the key is Big Boss's genetic code. While Snake and Liquid are as genetically close to Big Boss as they can be, neither of them are a perfect match, which is news that seems to shock everyone, but I thought we knew this already. Whatever. This is why they created Solidus. Solidus was indeed a perfect clone. Anyways, if the IDS believes that someone is trying to break into the system, it'll register the genetic code into a blacklist and will never allow it to gain access again. So, if they want to run a new trial, they need to find a new substitute to Big Boss's genetic code. And unfortunately, Solidus is long gone, and both Liquid and Snake's code have now been blocked from the system. However, if Liquid uses Big Boss's genetic code, the original code, he won't need any more trials. He'll have the system completely under his control. Naomi also confirms that Snake and Liquid not being the exact same either is why Fox Eye did not affect Snake and Shadow Moses, although it killed Liquid. Snake brings up another good point. Big Boss is dead. How is he going to get his biometric data? Well, apparently he's not dead. Right. Well, he's kind of a vegetable, but his body is being kept alive. Meanwhile, Sunny's on the computer researching about how to help Raiden. She's grown a fondness towards Raiden, probably because he rescued her. Naomi tells Sunny that they can't do anything from the Nomad, since even though healing his wounds is important, he needs to go through dialysis. In other words, his artificial blood needs to be filtered, which is what our kidneys are supposed to do, but he has artificial blood. Why didn't they give him artificial kidneys? I don't know. Raiden tells them that somewhere in Eastern Europe is a scientist called Dr. Madnar who saved his life once. He has equipment that can help him. How convenient. Exactly where Liquid went. By the way, if that name sounds familiar, it's because it is in fact the same doctor that created the Metal Gear back in Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake. Yeah, we're making references way back then. Somehow he survived a bunch of explosives to his back, and he's somehow still alive in 2014, even though he looked like he was 70 years old in 1999. Whatever though, anything for a good old reference. Before Snake heads upstairs to smoke, Sunny snatches the cigarette and tells him,
This is a no-smoking flight.
Later that day, we see Otacon and Naomi talking while everyone else is asleep. Naomi takes the thumb drive on her necklace and heads over to Otacon. After talking a little bit about Emma, his sister, they get on the topic of Sunny. Otacon mentions that he feels like she's better than programming than he is, and that she is the one that broke the code on Naomi's email. Naomi looks surprised as she figured that he was the one that broke the code, and immediately looks at the thumb drive in her hand, again, as if changing her mind about something. After some more small talk, right as they're about to have a moment, Otacon is cock-blocked by... Actually, I'm not sure. Some random machine does beeps. Naomi takes the opportunity to attach the thumb drive back in her necklace and asks him if she can sleep in the helicopter, away from the men. As Otacon shows her in, Snake, who has been awake the whole time, simply rolls over like a good bro to give them some privacy. He must be so proud of Otacon. However, Otacon, being the dork he is, doesn't take his shot and just leaves her in there, so Naomi makes the move herself, and the scene ends there. What happens in that chopper stays in that chopper. Chapter 3-1, Europe. This marks the beginning of Act 3, Third Son. We start in a train station overlooking a crowd and following Snake out of a building. While this happens, we hear Campbell's briefing. It seems that a nation state of emergency has been declared to root out the local resistance. A hunt is being carried out by the PMC Raven Sword, another of the PMCs under Liquid's outer heaven. Their target is the Paradise Lost Army, Big Mama's resistance group. Snake was deployed in the region, where they are believed to house their base of operations. Snake himself has also been added to the PMC blacklist, so in order to get in there, he will have to lie about his identity. For this purpose, he wears a face mask, and Campbell has provided him a way to evade checkpoints. We'll see what way that is later. Snake's mission is to find Big Mama and secure Big Boss's body. Snake gets on a line to cross a metal detector, which seems to serve as an ID check as well. When it's Snake's turn to go in, he refuses to pass, just standing there without saying a word. One of the soldiers approach him and try to take him away, but Snake scares him away by simply putting his hand in his pocket, although he's just taking out a cigarette. Finally, when the situation escalates enough, Meryl shows up and gets him out, telling the PMC that she's been looking for him. That was Campbell's way of evading the checkpoint. Oh yeah, Snake's disguise of choice, by the way, is himself, but younger. Good disguise. It seems that Meryl has been put in charge of overseeing all PMC activity. She's come a long way. Of course, Meryl isn't alone. The rest of her team is with her, and Akiva manages to almost fuck up Snake's cover. To avoid suspicion, Meryl and Snake head to another room where she tells them that after the events of the Middle East, she wrote up a threat assessment and the president now understands the threat Liquid poses and has called for immediate action. Now Meryl's in command of a whole joint Army Marines team ready to strike Liquid at any point. Snake, however, doesn't believe that taking him by force will work, but Meryl is sure of herself, as they can simply put a lock on all PMC weapons if things get out of hand. However, they can't seem to see eye to eye. Meryl, trying not only to prove herself, but also trying to protect Snake, as she can see his deteriorated state, tells him that she and her team will just have to find Liquid before he does. Before heading out, she tells him that he's too senile to face the truth of his situation, essentially telling him that he's getting old and weak, but doesn't want to admit it.
Wake up and face reality. Old Snake.
As Snake leaves the building, PMCs gather behind him, looking at him suspiciously. Because of this, and the ruckus Akiba caused, Otacon believes that this face may have also been added to the PMC blacklist as well. His objective is to find the location of the resistance meeting by finding and trailing a resistance member without being noticed. Because the town is under curfew, the only people that should be outside are PMCs and resistance members, making Snake's job a little easier. Also, Otacon tells him that they managed to get in touch with Madnar, and Naomi and Sunny are on their way over there with Raiden. Chapter 3-2, Paradise Lost. After not too long, Snake notices a man suspiciously walking out of an alleyway, and he tells him around the streets while also protecting him and avoiding being spotted by both the resistance member and the PMCs. They reach an old church where the resistance member looks around cautiously before opening the door. Right as he opens it, Snake grabs him and drags him inside to avoid being shot at. Resistance members surround him while they talk about him being the one. Seems like they know about him. Looking at the walls, one can see that there are pictures of him, Big Boss, and other people from all Metal Gear games all over the room. It's almost as if this group has turned Big Boss and Snake into some kind of religion or myth. Snake manages to fight them off, and as he heads into the main room, he finds Big Mama, who commends him for his impressive CQC, and says that he is definitely the legendary hero. Huh, she looks familiar. Where have we seen a blonde woman obsessed with Big Boss who zips down her jacket and exposes... Oh, right. Snake returns the soldier's weapons, and Big Mama just mentions how much he has grown, calling him David, his real name. Something not many people know. She knows this because although Snake and the other clones were Big Boss's clone, Big Mama, Eva, was the woman who birthed them. You see, you can't grow a human in a test tube. Even clones need a womb to grow in. So Eva volunteered as the surrogate mother. This is when Eva explains everything to us and Snake. Liquid struggles against Zero, the founder of Cypher, the group which would be replaced by the Patriots. Even now, he wants them dead, as he promised when he was a child. Zero created the Patriots to manage and control America and create a unity of thought and awareness, believing that this is what the boss wanted, to unite America and eventually the world. The founding members were their commander, David O, aka Zero, John, aka Big Boss, Donald Anderson, aka Sigint, Dr. Clark, aka Paramedic, Adamska, aka Ocelot. Later, Big Boss rescued Eva in Hanoi and she became a founding member as well. This is also the first time that Solid Snake ever hears about the boss. Believing that the people needed a special icon to look up to, the icon of the Patriots would become Big Boss, as he was the closest person to the boss. Zero elevated Big Boss to the status of an idol, but this eventually caused the truth about him to be riddled with exaggeration, misinterpretation, and lies. This is why the soldiers were so eager to join Venom Snake back in Metal Gear Solid 5. They had only heard stories about Big Boss, stories which made him seem even scarier or more heroic than he ever really was. This is actually shown in a cassette tape from Ocelot in Metal Gear Solid 5.
Your actions and words, your legend, has been told on every battlefield they've set foot on. Obviously, as the tales have spread, the truth's been distorted and painted over. Big Boss sacrificed himself to show us the threat that Cypher poses. He sounded a warning, so it goes.
A warning?
Too much power destroys the hands that hold it.
I never said any of that.
The moment any truth is passed on, it starts turning into fiction. The problem is, fiction inspires people more than facts. To the world, you're now the legendary mercenary Big Boss.
Using these stories, Zero gathered the rich and the powerful to his banner, growing his organization even further. However, as Zero's lust for power grew, Big Boss started resenting playing the puppet, which sparked friction between both of them. So, as an insurance policy, Zero started the Les Enfants Terribles project, which gave birth to the three sons of Big Boss. The project was led by Dr. Clark, Paramedic. In time, they successfully managed to fertilize an egg. The egg came from a Japanese woman, which is why Vulcan Raven told Snake back in Metal Gear Solid 1 that blood from the east flows within his veins.
The Raven has put the mark of death upon you. Blood from the east flows within your veins.
The egg was implanted in Eva's womb, who volunteered to carry Big Boss's son out of her love for Big Boss. Big Boss eventually found out about the Les Enfants Terribles project, and this proved to be the final straw for him. This is when he decided to break out of the Patriots and oppose Zero, and this is when all the events of Peace Walker, Ground Zeroes, and the Phantom Pain happen. Eva apologized to Snake, as Big Boss never wanted him as a son, because he believed that human life was never meant to be manipulated like that. And while Eva agreed with this, she still wanted Snake. Big Boss's departure broke Zero, and he started to become paranoid and even more lustful for power. Eventually, his words started to affect decision making even in the Oval Office. Soon they influenced decisions made in countries all over the globe. Developing weapons, amassing armies, and extortion. Zero did it all to gain more wealth, to grow the power of Cypher and the Patriots, all for his obsession of controlling and unifying the awareness of the people. Eva, however, doesn't believe that this is what the boss would have wanted. Both Big Boss, with his state of 4 soldiers to always have a place in the world, and Zero, with his unifying the consciousness of the world, both misinterpreted the boss's desire. That difference in interpretation is what drove them apart. By the time Metal Gear 1 happened, there was nothing left of the boss's will, only the passion to destroy each other. For this purpose, Big Boss concocted a plan, and he returned to the US to resume control of Foxhound. Not sure how he was able to do that so easily. I'll give them this, it was after Skullface had been dealt with, and after Zero went into hiding, and before the Patriots had full information and control over everything, so who knows. Anyways, Big Boss planned a revolution against Zero in Outer Heaven and end Zanzibar Land. However, his ambitions were quelled thanks to Solid Snake himself. Considering that he was working under the US government during a time that the Patriots had their grasp on America, it's fair to assume that Solid Snake was unknowingly working for the Patriots. After Zanzibar Land, Zero recovered the bodies of Big Boss and Frank Yeager. Frank's body was completely reconstructed and used for experimentations by Dr. Clark, thus turning him into the cyborg ninja. Big Boss, however, became a prisoner of Zero even in death. His body was kept alive through nanomachines, though his mind remained locked away. Big Boss was not only an irreplaceable icon to Zero, but deep inside he was an irreplaceable friend. And for this, Zero wanted to create a sort of messiah for the people, one that would never die. Big Boss's betrayal drove Zero to mistrust everyone. This is what brought about the creation of the Patriot system. He could no longer trust his vision to the next generation. Instead, he found the sunken AI pod of Peace Walker in the Lago Cosibolca, and with Strangelove's help and Sigand at the head of the project, reprogrammed it to mimic the will of Zero instead of the will of the boss. Like Drebin said, the Patriot system consists of 4 AIs. Their names are TJ, AL, TR, and GW. Yep, the very same GW. They're all named after presidents too. TJ, Thomas Jefferson, AL, Abraham Lincoln, TR, Teddy Roosevelt, and GW, George Washington. Like Drebin also said, they're all tied by one central intelligence, JD, John Doe. This could be a reference to a conversation Big Boss had with Paramedic in Metal Gear Solid 3, where he called himself John Doe.
Aren't you going to tell me your real name?
Are you going to tell me yours, Mr. Snake?
My name, huh? It's John Doe.
And they call you Jack for short.
And given how Big Boss was the icon of the Patriots, and Big Boss's name was John, and JD is the head of the Patriots, I'd say this is actually likely. Now, before we continue, I want to give you some time to remember. Do you remember? No? Am I gonna have to tell you? Man, I'm disappointed. It's okay though. I did take a long time to make these videos. Back in part 6 of the series, I told you that the AI pods for each AI weapon were codenamed. The 4 AI pods were named GW, TJ, TR, and AL, the initials of the presidents on Mount Rushmore. I also told you that it was foreshadowing for something and said, let's see if you remember this one when it comes up again. I even showed you footage of it. While the footage didn't show AL, there's a cassette tape in Peace Walker of Big Boss talking to Strangelove, where she tells Big Boss that AL is the name she assigned to the reptile pod.
Yes, you're referring to the TJ Chrysalis 6000. There's also the GW Pupa 5000, the TR Cocoon 7000, the initials of the American presidents whose faces are carved into Mount Rushmore.
Then you're missing one.
I assigned that one to the reptile pod, AL Aurelia 8000.
Aurelia.
So that means that JD is most likely the mammal pod. Makes sense, especially considering that the mammal pod was the smartest of all the AIs, and now it's serving as the head of the Patriot system. Anyways, back to the point. Ever since GW was cut off, JD and the other AIs have been in charge of every aspect of global society. Economics, politics, laws, morals, and culture. In order to keep him out of their way, but also keeping him alive as an icon, a messiah that would never die, Big Boss is not allowed to live or die. He is left a mental prisoner of the Patriots, although in Zero's eyes it was also a way of binding himself to an irreplaceable friend. At this point, the stories of Big Boss had almost turned him into a religion. For this, Eva and Ocelot, his biggest admirers, started a long drawn-out plan to free him. Starting with enlisting Naomi Hunter into the rebellion, who is most likely sympathetic to Big Boss because not only did he save her brother, but he actually saved her too. They also managed to use Frank Yeager to kill Dr. Clark. Remember, Naomi said that her predecessor was Dr. Clark, who was killed by Frank.
You didn't kill that doctor too, did you? The one that used Grey Fox for his genome experiments.
Dr. Clark? No. That was my brother.
Also, remember how Ocelot accidentally killed DARPA Chief in Metal Gear Solid 1, aka Sigint? Well, again, that was no accident. Ocelot and Eva and the Little Rebellion organization have been chopping away at the remaining members of the Patriots one by one. However, in the process, Eva had lost Ocelot to Liquid's mind control. So Ocelot, like always, has never been fighting for the Russians or the Pentagons, and definitely not for Zero and the Patriots. Ever since he left the Patriots, Ocelot has been fighting for the man that caused him to leave the Patriots, Big Boss himself. He has never left his side, as he saw Big Boss as an idol. The location of Big Boss's body was in the data retrieved from GW, and with it, Eva helped Raiden recover Big Boss's body. It was during the search for Big Boss's body that Raiden was captured by the Patriots and had his head and spine removed from his body from the top jaw up and attached to a cyborg body. From there, they conducted experiments on him. That's how he ended up looking the way he does now. Eva and her Paradise Lost army rescued him and managed to get the nanomachines in him out through surgery, but he was stuck with the body he had. Eva, after explaining all of this, takes Snake over to Big Boss, or what remains of him. He's pretty much a fleshy torso in a life support system. Man, our old hero turned villain. Just cannot get a break, Kenny. While back in the church, Otacon calls Snake and tells him that Naomi left the Nomad soon after her and Sonny got back from Dr. Madnow's place. They suspect she went back to Liquid as he can't finish his plans without her. While Otacon tells Snake that Raiden is now healing up, Snake notices a really weird guy walking into the church with a trench coat and a hat, but pays him no mind. Otacon tells him that Raiden's treatment will take 48 hours, and right after, the weird guy walks into the room, catching the attention of a Paradise Lost soldier. He unmasks the guy to uncover that not a man. It's not even a human. It's not even one thing. It's 3 weird robots made up of 3 hands attached to a sphere. Eva moves forward and shoots them all with ease. These are Dwarf Gecko, aka Scarabs. While they don't pose much of a threat, they are used as unmanned scouts, meaning that the enemy now has their location. As soon as they make their realization, they start moving out as Otacon tells them that PMCs are converging on their location. With that, they take off with 2 decoy vans, a real van, and Eva in her bike along with Snake.
I only get off my bike when I fall in love. Or fall dead.
Big Mama.
Call me Eva.